Good morning and welcome to your Daily Game Face. I am Dr. Kim Lannon. I am here remote today with Lou, making all the decisions of the world better. Better and easier with less stress.
It's
Here
funny
we
day
are.
to day, isn't it? Yeah.
What?
It's funny day to day how things work.
Yes. We would have started on time, but Lou and I were solving some problems of the world.
I don't know how much solving I was doing, but yeah.
Well, you were giving me good feedback on decisions I have to make.
Never
But
know when you wake up in the morning, do you?
No.
No.
Well, yeah. This whole week has been like that.
Yeah.
Monday on, I'm like, yes, this is just an exciting week. So, it's an exciting week because I have a very big event coming this Saturday. It's my big final event before the marathon, which is in a month, and it's my big final woohoo. And it's down at Time Out Market in Boston, and we've got a lot of stuff going on, and so there's things in motion. And if people want to come, I encourage you to get your tickets before the door, because people who will get them before the door get all the perks that go with it. People who do come after and get them at the door do not have the guarantee of getting all the extra perks that come with, other than the comedy show. And so I just encourage people to register quickly and soon, and so on and so forth. But
With our buddy Dave Russo. Yeah.
And Mike Donovan. So yes. Ooh, I have a cat joining me right now.
Of course.
She's going to walk right across. She's very interested in what I'm doing. But yes, so I have a lot of things in movement. And so, of course, just like in life, you got to rise to the occasion. And I've had lots of adversity that I won't share on live right now, but there's been a lot of adversity this week. And so therefore, I am practicing what I preach, but that does not make it any less anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
And I have to still do my thing to be less anxiety provoked.
Good luck.
Thank you. Since you know all the details, thanks.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine. Just like I tell everyone.
No, I mean that too. I'm not being pejorative. I mean that. It's going to be fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
No, I do.
No one's got the inside scoop on it. So we're talking like a code right now. You're like, everything's going to be fine, Kim. It's going to be fine.
It's a sincere evaluation of the situation.
Is that before I make a call or after I make the call?
Either way.
Okay. Well,
professionals involved. It's all going to work out.
If only people could have heard the conversation before.
It's all going to work.
What we really wanted to say.
Yeah.
Begins with an F and it ends with a K, and it says, "Oh,
it's fine.
It's fine." So anyway, so on that note, and we're talking about rising, right? So this week's show. By the way, I missed everybody last week.
I know, right?
The whole time went like so fast, but here I am again. But because I have a little bit of a condensed show today, due to our front loading and my need to be off and running, it might be a 2-part show actually, because this is going to be talking about a little bit of some things have come up. Every time I do a show, people then will come back and ask questions, as you know. And so this is more about today about worrying about what people think. Isn't this timely? Yeah. Worrying about what people think, and also how to not let other people's thoughts and ways of wanting and doing things get in the way of your goals and moving forward.
Yeah.
So timely. I'm talking about this. I got to practice what I preach.
I know, but sometimes it's part of the equation.
It is. So, okay. So worrying about what other people think is largely a social threat response. And you know how we love talking about how we generate threat, right?
Yep.
So that whole
I'm the king.
It's what?
I'm the king.
Yes.
King of threat generation.
Yes, I know you are. So, yeah. but worrying about what other people think is probably one of the biggest things that comes across my desk, so to speak, every single day from almost every person I meet. I mean, it's just a social phenomenon, and it's because we socially threat generate, and it is a response to that, right? So what you're doing is that your brain is trying to protect your safety, your belonging, your reputation, all the things. And the goal isn't to stop caring. So this is how it generated this topic when we were talking about, like, don't worry about what other people think, don't care. Why does it matter? Don't care about that, right? The goal isn't to stop caring, so to speak. Because that's not really realistic or adaptive, right? The goal is to care selectively
Mhm.
and very strategically about what other opinions and if other people what it's about what other people have in their opinions that are important to you, that then don't override your actual direction or decisions that you're going in.
Right.
So it's really not about like being like, why do you care, and letting it go. It's really much more about selectively caring and strategically placing people's opinions in a spot where they don't override your forward trajectory, if that makes sense.
Yes.
That's my little definition of it. Okay. So what I thought is I'd give like a practical framework that would, that works well in performance psychology, especially with like athletes and people in leadership and development, but it really works for anybody that has kind of behavior change work that they're working on. So the first thing is deciding on whose opinions are actually, and I put this in air quotes because it's super important, decide whose opinions are actually qualified,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because not every person's opinion deserves equal cognitive weight. And oftentimes, when people are worriers about what other people think, they collectively do an overarching worry about everyone equally and their opinions equally. And
Mm.
then they don't filter. And then every opinion is the same, and not the same, but it has equal weight. But not every opinion really deserves the weight that you're giving it, right? So give influence to opinions, and here's some of the rules around this that I try to live by as I do this day to day. Okay, so give influence only if the person understands your goals,
Mhm.
right? So if you're talking to someone that has an opinion, give them give them um, influence in your brain if they understand your goals, they have any experience in what you're pursuing. Monday morning quarterback, never played football in their life. They always got something to say, but that's, there's a perfect example, right? So if the person doesn't have experience in what you're pursuing, you have a filter there, right? Um, you want to give influence if the person has your best interest and wants your growth for you, and not your comfort for them. They want to have you be growth forward and they're not in the way of your growth. And also give influence if the person is able to give really specific, not vague feedback, and it's not related to the sympathy level of like, oh, I understand, I get it, me too. No, that's not a person you would want to select in. That's a person you want to select out when it's like that.
Right.
So understanding your goals, has experience in what you're pursuing, wants your growth, not their own comfort, and they give specific, non-vague feedback, right? And so everyone else will get background noise status.
I kinda
So
like it. Yeah.
what kind of like what?
I like it. I like that classification, yeah.
Right? So they get the background chatter of like, yep, they're the people that I say, "Oh, that's the committee." They have no names, they have no faces. They might, but they really have no bearing in anything, right? So they have the background noise chatter. And so a useful rule that I like to tell my clients and people in my life is take advice from people living a life that you'd accept as a model. So if you're talking to someone that you wouldn't role model after and they're giving you advice, that's probably someone you want to select out.
Yeah.
Just saying, right? We put so much stock into, um, and that's not, you don't dismiss, because there's a lot of people you dismiss in that case because there's so many people that have opinions. But you really have, when it's coming to something that's like about your growth and your rising to the next moment or your next thing, you have to really be able to say, I am going to take advice from people that I am watching that are trying to live, or they're living in a model that I'd accept for myself because they're trying to do the same thing, or they have done the same thing and that they've made that happen. So not from people that are pulling you back or people that would be
Right.
questioning, why would you do that? Why do you need to grow for it? Why do you need more? Right? Those are not people that you'd be modeling after. Therefore, you are not going to seek their advice. They're going to be back chatter. They're going to be the back noise chatter. Right?
And we're culling, right? We're not just blocking. So
Right.
you'd listen to it, but you'd set it to the side quickly if it
Yes.
didn't meet the qualifications that we're talking about.
Right. Because that's where you're going to selectively care and strategically filter.
Right. So it's not
Right.
about blocking someone out. It's about
Oh,
not spending a lot of mental energy on their opinion if it doesn't qualify.
and it doesn't meet
Yeah.
that if it doesn't meet that criteria, right? Because in another scenario, that person that you're doing that with in this scenario might actually have something.
Right.
You're not just doing that across the board, like to annihilate someone out of your life. You're just doing it in selectively per thing. If your person always goes to mom for advice, but mom only has certain selective things that they can give advice on, we don't go to mom for everything.
Fair enough. Yep.
Right. It's just that. Okay. The next step would be that separate the thought of rejection from, I call it misalignment, right? So many people aren't really trying to hold you back. They're protecting the version that they know and that they like and that they are used to seeing. So it's like subconsciously their goal is to keep you where they know you. And so
Right.
it's a protective bubble that oftentimes gets seen as that someone's trying to hold you back. Now, does that mean that sometimes people are trying to hold you back? Absolutely.
Even
Certainly.
if not consciously, it's just like if you grow, you're going to leave them.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes it's conscious, but most of the time it's not conscious. It's under the surface of like, because it's a fear. Again, it's a social threat to the other person that you're moving forward and going to leave them behind in some way, which may in fact happen because if you listen to my show on outgrowing people, that
Yep.
happens sometimes. But separating rejection out from misalignment is so important because when you grow, other people other people may question your changes. They may minimize your goals. They may joke and make fun of it. This is all protecting them, right? They
Right.
may withdraw their support because that might get you to stop, right? Or they become skeptical or they're more cynical about, well, they've always got something, the negative Nelly, the person that's got something to say, like, well, that's not going to work. Why would you do that? Why can't you just live like the rest of us, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and this is that rejection, right? This is the normal social friction that comes from growth in other people. And it's not a signal, and this is what happens to a lot of my clients. It's not a signal that you yourself are moving in the wrong direction. It's just a signal that you're creating friction in other people's lives that make them uncomfortable and they're having a hard time managing that,
Right.
and that makes them stressed out, and then your growth then is getting in their way, and it disrupts the familiar roles that they're used to, and that's the threat generator for them.
It's threatening their comfort within their own lives.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
because you're making a change that they don't want, or they don't know they want, and it could actually benefit them, which is why sometimes
Well,
in
they don't think they can accomplish. So.
right, because they're not, well, and because they're not forward moving with you, right?
Right.
If your goal is to, start a new business, and it's in something that you're in a place of friends and family that have never started a business before, you might have one person in there that might be, yay, go. And then the rest of them, this is like very common. This is why I'm using the example of like, why would you do that? Why don't you just go get a regular job? Why would you, like, that's such a high risk, like all the negative stuff, right? Because it's disrupting the familiarity of what is and what is the norm. And that's scary for people, right?
Right. They don't want you one-upping their lives.
And exactly. Now, and most people won't say that, but
Right.
it's there. That piece is there. Um, Now, along with this next section comes the replacing approval seeking, because we love to approval seek, right? And so replacing approval seeking with setting direction. So instead of seeking other people's approval, set direction. So approval seeking people, which we know so many, will say things like, will they like this? Will they be okay with it? those kinds of statements. Direction setting says, will this move me forward? Will this get me where I need to go? Does this help me in some way by doing this? And so doing a decision setting statement in your head or out loud is so much better than doing approval seeking statements, which we do so much of, which is, what will they think? What will they want to do? What will
It's
they say?
it's self-validation as opposed to external validation.
Exactly. And we rely so heavily socially on that. It threat generates because we predict out what the outcomes are going to be based on that whole, like, will they like this? Will they be happy? Versus, does this move me forward? And is this going to do something good for me? Right.
What's a
Um,
bigger threat than attachment to external validation? I mean, it puts you in constant fight or flight.
it's and that's the thing, is that's why so much anxiety is, I think that our culture is so heavily laden with anxiety, is because of that threat generation of that right there. Right. So instead of what will people think, ask things like, does this align with the person I'm becoming? Now, I said that a couple weeks ago on the show, right? Does it align with the person that I'm becoming? And that's super important. And so if you can align yourself with that in your head, and you can get in your mind what you're trying to become or what you want to become, and you keep checking in with that when you ask yourself, does this align with the person I'm becoming? You're going to have that internal drive to make your decisions rationally, which will reduce the social influence, the external on you. And then the anxiety will come down dramatically because you're really relying on yourself and what you're thinking versus what
Right.
you think other people are thinking.
Which, by the way, you have more control over.
Yes, and people just have to get used to the fact that you actually do have more control over that, and you're so used to doing the external control, which you think that makes somehow it better, but it doesn't. It's
Yep.
far worse, far worse. So when we do things driven on our own identity, we will reduce our anxiety and replace our approval seeking with that direction seeking and direction setting. So it's important. Okay. The next thing would be that we want to expect that we will have discomfort, and I've talked about this before. We will have discomfort when you outgrow expectations. So when you I'm trying to think of how to put this. When people unconsciously prefer predictability, uh, the discomfort of something gets in the way because we
Yeah,
like
sounds familiar.
right?
Yeah,
Right? Gee, talk about timely, right?
yeah.
Um, so but you have to expect that there's going to be discomfort when you outgrow expectations. And so if you are changing careers, training for something big like marathon, right? Launching a project like I'm doing, stepping into some kind of leadership role, prioritizing your wellness over not being well for a long time and changing, like, exercise, diet, and all those things, or you're practicing setting boundaries, which I've been talking about forever on the show the past 2 years with the Year of You and also in Rise. Like, if you're doing that, someone will interpret that as sometimes, more often than not, a change in somehow your loyalty to them or to the situation, or that you're somehow distancing. And so that's a threat, which makes that makes a discomfort, but it's not really a threat. And I want people to think of it as that's the evolve part of the rise. So, we reset our mindset, which is the front part of what I talked about today. Then we're integrating it. Then we're standing it up. We're standing out. We're doing something with it. And then here's the evolving. When we change something, right, and someone else interprets it as a distance or a change in loyalty, or somehow you're betraying like the relationship by doing something new or uprooting everybody's life to be whatever, it isn't that. It's your evolution, and you have to honor that and give that grace that your evolution has nothing to do with the fact that you're having a discomfort experience with someone else because they are holding expectations for you that you're outgrown. And that's the thing, is people pigeonhole other people into these places where they expect you to stay. And when you want to rise out of that and evolve, which is all those examples I gave, like doing something big, changing a career, buying a new home, or a second home, investing, whatever, you have to know that's evolution, and it will create discomfort in other people. But that's not a you issue. That's more of a them issue, because
Right.
your evolution is supposed to keep happening.
You can't stunt yourself for other people's expectations, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what people do all the time, because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or they think that that's going to upset them or do something, what, but it's, yeah, but then what happens? You don't do.
Right.
Then there's no do. Then you get stuck up in the attic, so to speak, if we talk about the polyvagal nerve, right? The fight and flight goes into this space of getting into a numb space, a frozen spot, because now you're stuck, because you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do this and go forward because that person's going to be so upset. And then, and so people sacrifice lifelong dreams for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you suppress yourself for other people's opinions, and you can't
Right.
do yeah.
Hmm. And so that's, it's perfect lead into exactly the next point, which is use, and I call it with my clients, the future self-test. Use the future self-test. You're going to ask yourself, will I regret will I regret not doing this in, put your X amount of time,
Mm.
because I listened to someone else's fear? I'm going to use this today. I need this today. I'm
Too
talking
spot
to
too spot on, yeah.
I'm like, I need to use this today for myself. Wish I could give everybody context, but well, I'll know if I survive next week.
And this is where these types of exercises do well, because it reduces emotions to thoughts and words and puts it in perspective, right?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
dealing with this all the time, and if you're not thinking about it, if you're not specifying it in your thought process, you're just kind of blowing by it without paying enough attention to it.
Right.
You're making your decisions based on other people's opinions of you.
Exactly.
Are you
And
willing to do
and
that?
that's and it's so it's I think it's one of the strongest psychological hold factors that happens to people. I really
Okay,
do. I,
I think
I
so
think
too.
it's over 31 years of doing my practice. I'm like, this is the big one. It truly is. People, they regret the regrets of not doing because someone else had fear that created them to have fear.
Especially if one of the crabs in your bucket has a disproportionate hold on you with their emotional opinion.
Right. Like a codependency thing.
Yeah.
That would be a really important one, right?
Just an
So
influential person, a parent or a partner or whatever it is, someone who has a lot of influence over you, they can suppress you quite easily with their expectations.
exactly. And that's important for people, just to have the awareness of that, of who those people are in their lives, to be able to identify that so that you can selectively put them into back chatter. Because that would be important, right? So, because future, right? So, if we use the future self test, the future regret is usually a stronger, this is the future regret is usually a stronger compass than present approval,
Mm,
right?
yep.
So, again, repeating, future regret is usually a stronger compass than present approval. And that is so important, right? Our present approval is in the moment, and it's like, okay, it makes it fine, but then we regret, the future regret is so much stronger when we don't, when we go, oh, I wish I had done that. I
Yep.
can't believe I didn't do that. I mean, it's just such an important factor, so to use in the future self-test, you know.
You should
So,
explain that to somebody.
do what?
You should explain that to somebody.
Thank you. Point noted. Thank you. I'll be using that in an hour.
Yeah, I think it's funny the way things fit.
I know, not planned that way, but here we are, right?
Yep.
Um, okay. So the next piece of this is build yourself a small circle of reinforcement. Can you hold on one second?
I'm not sure.
Hold please. The back chatter that I have in my background needs to stop. All the noise in my back scenes needs to stop. Sorry, everybody on that's listening. Sorry.
It's all right. There's been worse.
I know.
Not on this show, but yeah.
Thank God. I
Yeah.
asked for it to stop and it continues.
Mm.
This is what happens when you do things from home.
Yeah.
Okay, show must go on. So building a small circle of reinforcement is so important. So confidence grows faster when you have people that are aligned with you. And so here's my rule of thumb, and I don't usually say it to my clients this way, but I'm probably going to start doing that because I do it in different ways. But I think when I was getting this all in my head and thinking about this week, and then this morning, I was thinking, oh, this is actually what I do. But so you're going to have one mentor, which means that you want to pick in your circle someone that has experience with the things you're trying to get to. So you want to have a mentor, you want to have at least one, possibly two, but at least one peer that will give you momentum, that gets you, that knows you, and can get you going forward, that is moving with you. At least one, two would be great. And then one supporter, someone that has belief in you. Now, can you have a mentor that's also a peer and a supporter? Yes. Right. But you want to have that one mentor that has experience. You want to have at least one peer that has the momentum that will, may not be on your same path, but will help motivate you. Right. And accountability. And then you want to have a supporter that's just always like, I believe in you. You've got this.
And it's
So,
okay to have them for the different skill sets that you need too, the different
exactly.
goals you're trying to accomplish.
So and here's how when I say build that small circle of reinforcement, this is why, because you don't need universal approval. And universal approval is the thing that sort of starts and sets up the show today, is that everyone's looking for that big, I need to have no, you just need selective, but you don't need the universal approval. What you need is targeted reinforcement.
Nice. I like that.
You need targeted reinforcement, which is your mentor, your peer, and your supporter. And you can have them all in one.
Yep.
I am often my client's mentor, peer, and supporter. I'm the person that has the experience and gives them momentum and believes in them. You have to have someone like that that's not just your therapist or your doctor. You need to have someone in your life that does that, and or multiples, right? So that you can have targeted reinforcement from someone that isn't going to deter you, they're going to move you forward.
Right. And it
Right.
helps neutralize that desire for external validation.
It takes that down almost completely, if you really practice it, for
Right.
sure.
Find someone who knows what they're talking about and get support from them, and it's going to undo a lot of problems that you have with people who have no idea what they're talking about.
Right, and when you go seeking information from people that have not a clue, which is the selective filter, right? Um, so okay, I'm just looking at my time. I've got like one, I'll do one more point. Okay. Um, the next one is reduce, I call it the hidden habit, which is called mind reading. People love to mind read, right? So most people worry about others' opinions as imagined, not observed. Note to
Mhm.
self. Note to self.
Yep.
Right? So we imagine that this is, we imagine the what ifs, right?
Yep.
And not necessarily what we're observing. Mm. So common distortions in the mind reading thing, right? Those are
I'm one of these people who has conversations, who does the whole conversation with a person before I've even met them,
there you
before we
go.
even started the conversation. I'm one of those people. Oh, I
Right.
know how this conversation is going to go.
Uh-huh. I know you do that. So that's the thing. So when we're thinking about these things, it's like common distortions or things like they think I'm going to be unrealistic, or they'll judge me, they won't support this, they won't like this, they'll think I'm being selfish. They'll think it's always they'll think, right? And
Yep.
that's the mind reading of what they're thinking, right? Unless someone explicitly says it, your brain is just guessing, to your point, right? Your brain is guessing along the way of what you think is going to happen. So you have to replace this as a cognitive behavioral strategy. You have to replace the guessing with evidence. Evidence is fact based. You have to have the evidence of when you go, okay, is this going to happen? Like, for instance, I started the show saying, like, oh, I got to have a little moment today, some adversity. I have to have a conversation that I have very easily can predict out, like you what
Yep.
could be said. But instead, I'm just gonna go with the facts are, here's the facts, and it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna land on its feet one way or another. It's just I'm gonna go with the facts because I haven't had the conversation, so I don't know how it's gonna go.
But we did that in this conversation, and I know we're talking vague to the people who weren't in part of the conversation before the show. But most of that conversation revolved around, I know how this is going to go
Right.
when you approach it. And we don't know.
We don't know, but we were trying to figure out how to circumvent those pieces.
I know we were trying to figure out how to circumvent a conversation we hadn't had yet.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why it's a perfect example for today, because it's exactly that. This is why I say it's a common affliction. Like, I even know, like, I practice what I preach. I know you try to practice what you preach too, like the whole thing, and you still get into this mindset. I'm aware of that. I'm doing it because I'm trying to control for the situation, not get out of control.
Right. None of this is linear. Some days it works really well. Some days you get into situations where you're still sliding back, especially if you're prone to do it like I am.
Exactly. And so even talking about it is more about like empowering yourself. So like right now, after even having this, I'm like, I just pump myself up. You know what? I'm going to give it the old F it, and I'm just doing it.
That's a great way.
Stop being afraid. Just jump in and just do it and let it land. And whatever falls out, we just follow it out.
Verbalizing or journaling, or however you process your fears, and trying to identify what's external and what's internal.
Right.
That's a great place to start with the self-awareness,
Exactly.
because then you know what to deal with.
Right. And so on that note, using a very simple and effective boundary thing is, I appreciate the perspective, like, I've gotten, right? I appreciate your perspective, and this is something that I feel strongly about pursuing. And so therefore it will preserve the relationship without surrendering my direction. So like, if I need to have a conversation with someone later, I might have to use the boundary of, I appreciate the perspective, but it's in the way of the pursuit of the goal. So
Yeah.
therefore, I'm going to try to preserve the relationship without surrendering going in my direction by getting what I want.
Yeah.
Yay! I'm inspired by my own self today.
There you go.
Who knew my podcast would inspire me to do what I need to do today?
You just processed.
Whew. Right. And so in saying that, right, my next thought would be, okay, expect resistance right before progress. So there's a predictable pattern in people that there'll be clarification, then you'll get the doubt from others, and then it will create self-doubt, which is where I'm at. And then usually that's where it dies. And that's where you go, ah, and you run, right? But you have to be persistent and push through to get the breakthrough. So it's clarity, you get the doubt from others, right? Which you know the scenario I'm talking about. So you get that, then it creates self-doubt, and then you freak out. Instead of losing it and just dropping it, I have to persist so I can make the breakthrough, so I can get to the next side, so I can land on my feet. But most people stop at that stage 3 where you get self-doubt, people crumble because they're afraid, because all that other stuff seeps in. We don't have time for that. We just have to suck it up, Sally. Or not.
Got to give it a shot, right?
Right. Well, staying steady, I think, it's hard, but staying steady through the phase is what separates intention from execution. We have all the intentions in the world, and when we get self-doubt, we fall apart. We just have to go through the execution and just do it and suck it up. I mean, I'm still going to, as I tell my clients, no one's going to burst into flames. No one's going to spontaneously combust.
Right.
And no one's going to die.
How many times this morning did I ask you, what's the worst thing that can happen?
And I told you.
Yeah.
And you said, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
And I said, I know that, but it's the fear that I'm being driven by.
But is it realistic, rational?
Or reasonable?
Reasonable.
On some level, possibly. I can make facts for that.
Not 1,000%, but
no, right. I don't have 100%. So no, so the actual answer is no. So that's why I'm just going to trudge through, and I'm going to take the licks as they come, and I'll deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. So really quickly, because I'm going to have to end the show because I got to run, but the practical weekly exercise that I'm going to give people that strengthens your independence through all of this is once per week, maybe even more, but I'm thinking once per week, and like today, right? Here's 3 things. Write one decision that you made for yourself. Write one place you ignored an unnecessary approval and you got yourself a win.
Yep.
Which is, and one step you took forward towards your goals anyway, despite people's objections. because this will train you psychologically to have autonomy from other people's opinions over time. God, I'm going to take my own advice today. I just figured it out, Lou. This was like so timely. How weird that this was the show I had planned for my day today, and it wasn't even planned that that was going to fall on the day I needed it the most. And I got to, so you know how it goes.
I know how it's going to go.
Oh, good. You do? You think it's going to be a good outcome?
Yes, I do.
Good. You can make the call for me. People on the backside of this show are being like, what is going on?
I told you who needs to make the call. But
What?
I told you who needs to make the call.
I know. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. So, okay. Well, anyway, so hopefully this is helpful for people, you know, worry warts about what other people think, and get that committee and the back chatter out of your head and move yourself forward. And we'll revisit this. I sort of blew through this to get it all in for everybody today on a shorter show, but you guys have a fantastic week. And before we go,
Tune in for more next week, and we'll give you the non-specific resolution of what we were
yes,
talking about.
I'll give you some deets without giving the deets. But here's the thing. Venmo, $60 per person. If you want to come to my Time Out Boston Marathon charity fundraiser this weekend to see Dave Russo, and the Venmo's there on the bottom of the screen. If you want to see Dave Russo and Mike Donovan perform, awesome. If you want to come down and just have a really good time, I have amazing silent auction items. I have a Taylor Swift guitar signed.
Oh my God. Wow.
And I have tickets to the Patriots. I have tickets to Wicked that's coming to Boston. I have tickets for baseball, Red Sox. I got stuff. And I've got lots of cool swag bags for people that are attending my function, and just come for a good time. Like, just come chill. I've so many people have signed up and been so supportive, but we are running down to the line. And so I hope to see you all there. Doors open at 5. The comedians don't go on for like an hour and a half after that. But so come whenever you want, come have a good time, eat, drink, be merry. Also, if you don't want to come and or you can't come and you still would like to donate, you can go to my Venmo, you can donate that way, or you can go to my Give and Gain Boston Marathon site and donate directly. All proceeds go directly to the New England Patriots Foundation that support New England charities, and we give $250,000 plus away every year at the MVP Awards in May and June. So this is really good, and I'm a month out from running my 12th Boston Marathon. So, and I still have a broken toe. Thank you very much.
And we'll see if it's 30 or 80.
Yes, exactly. So, okay, you guys have a great week, and go practice what I just gave you, and I'll let you know how it works for me today. Bye, you guys.